Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of my podcast. I have officially renamed my podcast to Taking Up Space, a Michelle Mayer podcast. Super excited about my delivery for you all today. We're going to have a very enthusiastic conversation today about something that has been on my spirit for some time now. And I've done videos about it, and it just never really stuck. It wasn't effective, so I never posted them. But I'm going to speak to this today. I've been speaking to this to my circle, my inner circle, and I've gotten mixed reviews on it, as I knew I would. But I'm gonna speak it to you all, the public, today, and we're gonna see where it takes us. This particular topic is really it speaks to all women of the world, but mostly this conversation is to African American, highly melanated women. Okay, all over the planet. Whether you are in Ghana, whether you are in Nairobi, whether you are in Nigeria, South Africa, whatever parts of Africa you may be in, whether you may be in the UK, whether you are in the islands, whatever that belt you're in within that particular belt region, whatever area you're in within that particular belt region of the islands, this is for you. All of my sistren, all of the women that have kinky, coily hair, this conversation is for you, okay? Only because I am part of that demographic. I represent us, and as well. So I'm looking to speak to all those that are in this particular demographic. And our conversation today will be on wigs. Oh, we're talking about wigs today, y'all. We're talking about wigs and its effect on what we are, how we are represented as a culture of people, how the world views us as a culture of people, because it is our most dominant aspect. It is one of the things that we have incorporated into the culture, so much so that 98%, I'm gonna say, okay, let's just say 97% of the culture, the women in the culture, are wearing them, and some of the men in the culture are wearing them too. But this conversation is strictly for the women, okay? Because it's been something that's been on my spirit for some time now, and I want to get into it. This is not a condemnation, y'all, so I don't want anybody thinking that I'm coming for any of my sistren that wear wigs. I am not coming for you guys. I myself have worn wigs in my life. I have worn extensions. So I spent the majority of my life wearing my hair straightened or wearing some form of extension in my hair, whether they were sew-in weaves or whether they were full-on wigs. So it's just a preferential thing. But I want to speak to that. So today, the reason why I'm bringing this conversation up is because, a lot's going on in the world, and the world is changing and evolving. And I constantly look at where we are as a group of people. I am a cultural woman. I look at us as a culture in regards to where do we stand as a culture of people. I come on here daily with conversations to either remind you of the spiritual significance, not just us as a culture, but just people in general, the spiritual significance of having a relationship with God and how to be able to enact that type of relationship. I am a culture girl in the sense that, anything cultural from a historical perspective, I will divulge upon just in its entirety if I have the knowledge to do so. Anything that can support the upliftment of any aspect of our culture, I'm willing to do, because I know we are in a in a dire strait. We are in a situation right now that I honestly believe we are in a worse situation than we've ever been culturally. And I feel like somebody has to come forward and say something about it, even if it's the most unpopular thing to say. Because, just in speaking to friends of mine about wigs and my perspective on them, it's been low key heated arguments about them. Like, I honestly believe that we are in denial. I honestly believe that we are being so programmed with this hair thing that we are in denial as to why we go about doing what we do. And so I can remember when I was coming up, holidays came and birthdays and things of that nature, and everything that surrounded us beautifying ourselves, us celebrating, whether it's celebrating the birth of God, the birth of Jesus, whether it revolved around, Easter or birthdays or weddings or anything that was a celebratory event where we got dressed up and where we put on our Sunday best, or where we went about life as we were projecting the most beautiful aspect of ourselves. We always got our hair straightened. Always. You sat in front of that stove one by one. It was your turn to sit there and get oil put on your hair so that you can get the maximum straightening of your hair. And then you went through the whole stage of having perms, where you were able to perm your hair. Now you can go swim and you can hop out of the pool and your hair wouldn't get all nappy or get all kinky, coily, curly, tight, whatever you want to call it. Then it progressed to extensions. At first it was the Indian hair. First you got the Indian hair extensions. Then it went to Brazilian. Then you got all these exotic different types of hair. And many of us break the bank to get this hair. I mean, we will fantasize about, okay, I'm going to get 3-4 bundles. It's going to cost me X amount of dollars. Okay, I have to budget for it, because the bundles cost money, especially when they first began to be sold in the inner cities. They were very expensive. I know I spent a lot of money on them. And then it evolved to full-on wigs. And now we are in a place where no matter where you go in the world, I don't care if you go to Europe, I don't care if you go to Africa, I don't care if you are in the United States, wherever you see a large population of us, you see nothing but mostly women wearing European wigs, especially in America. And I guess my point is, why are we doing this? Do we understand what we look like to the nations? I want to paint a picture for you so you can look at it from another shift. I know many women wear wigs, weaves, extensions, whatever, as a protective style. You're preaching to the choir with me, because I warned them. I know all about it. This is not something that I'm on a hypothetical with, that I'm like, okay, I think they do it because of this, or I think they do it because of that. I know. I did it myself. I got bags of hair up under my bed in my room that I haven't worn, because I've gotten to a place where I'm in a battle of stepping out of that. And God has blessed me to see what we are looking like to the nations. And it's somewhat of an embarrassment. It says to the nations that we hate ourselves. It says to the nations, even though I know we don't, but it says to the nations, I would rather wear what is yours than to ever wear what is naturally mine. That's what it says. Because everybody does it. I can understand. I can remember a time when everybody wasn't wearing wigs like they're wearing them, or weaves like they're wearing them. I can remember a time. Yet, even still, everybody was wearing their hair straightened, mostly. So it's always been this struggle. And we're at a point right now, a pivotal point culturally, where we're always saying, oh, everybody wants to be like. I was having a conversation with someone and they're saying, everybody wants to be like us. Everybody wants to be us, and everybody admires us. So I don't know what you're talking about with this hair thing. And my response is, no, everybody doesn't want to be like you. You're mistaken. Everybody doesn't want to be like us, friend. Everybody doesn't respect our stance in the world as it is currently. They used to want to be like us because we were living in our truth. We were living in our greatness. We were the music we sang had meaning and depth, and nobody else could project it in that way. We embodied our uniqueness from head to toe. Whether it was wearing an afro, I remember when I was younger, people would be wearing afros, and other nations would do their hair to wear an afro like an African American would. You can't buy our hair. You can't pay another nationality to wear their hair like ours right now. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be one or two there's going to be a percentage of the nation, someone within the world that will want to probably have dreadlocks or have their hair in braids or have their hair in like a little small fro or something like that. But those are, friend, you already know that those are the minorities. We don't even have to get into that. Anyone that wants to come with that rhetoric as an excuse is reaching. Nobody wants to embrace our aesthetic because we're not standing in it. We are not representing the culture. We are not representing the abundance and the bountifulness and the richness of our culture. We are not. And that is just the truth. And the world is looking. So when you say, oh, there's culture vultures, you just sit amongst it. You just sit amongst us and eat off of our plate and benefit from us. Well, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? Why would they wake you up and tell you to do better? That's not their job to do that. They're in business. This is a business venture. This is not a maternal aspect or a fatherly kind of thing. This is a business venture. And if all they see on the news is you shooting and killing and warring with one another and disrespecting your women, not protecting your women in any way, leaving your women vulnerable and under attack from one another, why then would they tell you to promote music supporting anything else? They're in business to make money. They're going to tell you to support music that supports that type of lifestyle because they want to get the maximum return on their investment. They want everybody to buy that song, that record, or what, download that CD or what have you, or like that artist so that they can buy that artist's paraphernalia. Yet you, as the individual from the culture, have to be strong and culturally aware enough to know what's righteous and what is non-righteous and what will kill off your own brethren and sisters mentally and spiritually and what won't, so that you don't convey that message to your people. It's the same thing with this hair. Well, I can recall a time, friend, when this is what got me to the point where I started to really wean myself off of wearing the extensions and the wigs, because it was a whole influx of the Indian hair, and everybody was like, I want to get the Indian hair. Not because we wanted to be Indian. I don't believe any of us get the hair because we want to be like another nationality. We get the hair because it's like playing dress up. Okay, I'm going to have the curly hair today, and I'm going to dye it this color, and I'm going to look like such and such. And that's really what it is. Or at least it has been for me and the people that I know. Nobody wants to say that that they hate being black, and so they want to buy this hair because they want to be another nationality. Yet subconsciously, that is exactly what we're saying. I can recall a time I was in line, and I keep using this Nordstrom scenario in all of my videos that I don't upload because it was the most powerful experience I had in seeing how the nations look at you. I was in Nordstrom's. I think it was Century City. I can't remember. Was it Century City? I can't remember. Might have been I don't remember. I was in Nordstrom's. And I was in line. And I had probably a 28-inch Indian hair weave in my hair. Curly. And I remember distinctively the looks from the women as they were passing by to get in line. It was a look of, you don't love yourself. It was a look of, there goes another one of them. There's another one. This one has a 30-inch one in. You know, it was that type of thing. And I know I'm not the only one, because I've had this conversation amongst friends since then, because I recall it being such a paramount experience that when I got around friends or when I got to my phone, I communicated it to other people that wore extensions, that were black, just like myself. And they would agree with me that they experienced that too. And I thought to myself, I don't want to represent my culture like this. I'm a cultural girl. I know all of the greatness of our culture. Why in the world would I go amongst the nations and misrepresent us in that way? And it just weaned me slowly off of it. Yet I'm seeing now more than ever, it's like we don't even wear our natural hair. There are sisters out here wearing the natural hairstyles. I see them and I think it's a beautiful thing. But for the most part, they are a small percentage, y'all, and y'all know it. The majority of us are stuck on these wigs, and we will wear them no matter what they look like, just to say we got it on, because we feel naked and ashamed without them. We feel naked and ashamed without them. So much we sacrifice the edges of our hair, all of that, just to have the wig on, because we know we're not going to wear our natural hair. We're just going to wear the wig. So who cares? And this is the conversation today is, you know, I would like us to get to a place where we stand in our truth. Where we stand in the totality of our truth. Where when the nations see us as a group of women, because the women, God is working tremendous things through the women. I'm telling you, God is birthing tremendous things through the women. Not to take anything away from the men. The men have their part to play as well. But spirit moves in seasons. Spirit moves in cycles through different vessels. And I am here to tell you, the Spirit of God is moving tremendously amongst the women. And this is not just an African American or particular demographic. It is the feminine that Spirit is choosing to move very pronouncedly through. And as an African American woman, it is vital for all of us to look at where we stand amongst the nations. We are the ones that program the children. You are the lawgiver of the children, in the sense, not to diminish the role of the father, because the father, he manages and he directs. But you are the first lawgiver. It is not the father that is nurturing the baby. It is you. And it is you that silently nurtures and sees all the way through. This was the big mamas in them of old. Even though homes stayed together back then, whereas now they are not. It was big mama in them. And anybody my age group or older knows that I'm telling the truth. You wanted to get something done, you had to go through big mama. And I'm not just, she might have been called somebody else to you. Might have been grandmother, mommy, mama, whatever, auntie. It was always the feminine. We as women have to look and see, how do we represent our culture? How are we representing for our culture, our children's children? Because the world is watching you. And I honestly believe Not just you. The world is watching you and your children and your brethren and all of us as a collective. And I honestly believe that the world silently wishes us well. I honestly believe that the world would be pleasantly surprised if we woke from our slumber and began to tap into the things that matter and begin to speak to things that matter. Because when you go amongst the nations, these are the conversations the nations are having. They are teaching their children the things that matter. Yet I know that there are some amongst us that do, but I believe that I know that there are many of us that are broken because of whatever trauma that has come before us, whether it was the 80s and the drug era, and many of their parents were on drugs and they didn't have direction, whether it may have been an attempt to thwart us politically, whatever it is. As a unit, we have lost our solidarity. And we are like wandering sheep, wandering, looking to take on the cloak and the clothing of anyone that impresses themselves upon us. Ashamed, tired, bored with, whatever you want to call it, of standing in our totality and what is uniquely us. From the hood to the White House. That's just how it is. I leave you with a perspective. What if we all the women, began to embrace the uniqueness of us culturally, aesthetically, appearance-wise? What if we all began to embrace that consistently? So that when all the world looked at us, they would say, look at these peculiar people. Nobody looks like them. Because that is the way God created us. God created us in a peculiar looking way. Yet we take on everyone's coat of arms. We take on everyone's visualization. And we forsake our I am for someone else's. There's no condemnation here. I might wear an extension or two here and there, but I'm not going to forsake my own unique identity or the unique identity of my particular group to wear someone else's unique identity of their particular group and only wear mine 2 or 3% of the time. I don't want anyone to think I'm judging you guys. I'm not. I'm coming on as your sister, as an auntie, as a friend, to say, look at this. How are we representing ourselves to the world? What are we looking like? Do you think that we are being applauded by the world and respected? Walking around with the world's hair on our head as if it is the prize. As, wow, I've arrived at this level of success. Look at me. Because that's what we do subconsciously. Instead of standing in our totality once we reach a particular level of success and owning our unique, peculiar aspects, polishing them off and showing them to the world as if they are to be aspired to. This is the conversation, y'all. Don't want anyone to think that I'm being judgmental or that I'm here to condemn at all. I would like you to use this conversation as something to think about, because I know many of you have thought about this. I've worn enough extensions and wigs to know. I'm sure many of you have thought about this. We're loved more than we'll ever know. We are peculiar treasures of God. Peculiar. Google that word. Treasures of God. Stand in that and own that. Dust that off. Showcase that proudly and abundantly to the world. Be good to yourselves today and be good to each other. Peace and love.